The silence is the story now. Not the wreck itself, not the contact, not even the controversy. The biggest conversation in NASCAR this week is that Kyle Busch may have figured out the one thing every driver secretly knows about NASCAR penalties. Don't say a word. Because after Ryan Preece got hammered for wrecking Gibbs, one person stepped forward and called out what he believes is a massive double standard inside the garage. And it wasn't a rival, it wasn't a media analyst. It was Kyle's own brother, Kurt Busch. That's where the story gets uncomfortable. While Kyle was quietly putting together another solid finish at Watkins Glen International and trying to claw his way back into playoff contention, Kurt went public with a criticism that a lot of people in the garage probably agree with, but almost nobody expected him to say out loud. According to Kurt, NASCAR completely missed consistency here. He pointed directly at the incident involving Kyle and John Hunter Nemechek earlier this season at Texas Motor Speedway and basically said, "How is that different?" Kurt's argument was simple. If Preece gets penalized for intentional contact, then Kyle should have too. And he didn't dance around it. He openly said both drivers belonged in the same doghouse. That is a brutal statement coming from your own brother. But what makes this even more interesting is why Kurt thinks Kyle escaped punishment. Not because NASCAR didn't see it, not because the contact wasn't obvious, but because Kyle allegedly understood the system better than everybody else. Kurt basically revealed what many veteran drivers have believed for years. NASCAR listens closely to radio communication, post-race comments, and admissions of intent. Say the wrong thing, you're cooked. Stay quiet, you might survive it. That's the real controversy here, because now the conversation shifts away from just one incident and toward NASCAR's entire disciplinary process. Are penalties being decided by actions or by confessions? That distinction matters a lot, especially in a sport where emotions explode at 190 miles per hour and drivers constantly walk the line between aggression and retaliation. Kurt even brought up one of his own old stories to prove the point. He admitted that years ago, during a NASCAR All-Star race, he intentionally caused a caution because he needed another shot at the win. At first, nothing happened, but then he casually admitted it publicly days later. And NASCAR immediately dropped a massive fine on him. That story tells you everything about how drivers think this system works. The moment you admit intent, NASCAR has no choice but to act. So from Kurt's perspective, Kyle didn't necessarily beat the system with cleaner driving. He beat it with smarter silence. And honestly, that creates a dangerous precedent because now drivers may believe the safest strategy isn't avoiding retaliation. It's simply avoiding microphones that could completely change how NASCAR handles future incidents. Think about the competitive impact here. Drivers already push the limit every week. Now imagine if competitors start believing enforcement depends more on wording than actual on-track behavior. That creates frustration inside the garage fast, especially for younger drivers trying to understand where the line actually is. And strategically, NASCAR now has a credibility problem because consistency is everything in officiating. Players, teams, and fans don't expect perfection, but they do expect equal treatment. If one driver gets punished while another avoids consequences for what appears to be similar contact, people start questioning the process itself. That's exactly what Kurt Busch just triggered. And here's the timing that makes this even bigger. Kyle Busch desperately needs momentum right now. He's fighting to stay alive in the playoff picture. Every point matters, every finish matters. So while this controversy is dominating headlines, Kyle quietly did something important at Watkins Glen. He delivered another respectable result, second top 10 finish in 3 weeks. That may not sound huge for most elite drivers, but for Kyle's current season, it matters. Because the second half of the year is becoming survival mode, and that creates another layer to this story. Was NASCAR hesitant to hit one of its biggest stars during a playoff push, or was this simply a case where officials didn't feel they had enough evidence of intent? That debate is going to explode among fans. Some people will say Kurt is absolutely right. They'll argue NASCAR picks and chooses when to enforce these situations. Others will say there's a major difference between suspected retaliation and openly discussing it over the radio. And honestly, both sides have a point. Intent has always been one of the hardest things to police in motorsports. Contact happens constantly. Drivers move each other constantly. And proving something was deliberate is incredibly difficult unless somebody practically confesses it. That's why radio chatter becomes so important. But the danger is obvious. If radio communication becomes the deciding factor, drivers will simply get smarter about hiding intent. That's not solving the problem. That's teaching competitors how to avoid punishment. Now let's talk future scenarios. Best case for Kyle Busch? This controversy fades quickly, NASCAR moves on, and Kyle uses this momentum to make a late playoff surge. If the speed improves over the next few races, suddenly this becomes a comeback story instead of a controversy story. And if Kyle sneaks into the playoffs, nobody will care about this incident nearly as much. But the worst case scenario is very different. If another similar wreck happens later this season and NASCAR punishes somebody else, this clip from Kurt Busch is coming right back into the spotlight immediately, because now the inconsistency argument is officially on record from someone who understands NASCAR's inner workings better than almost anyone, and that puts pressure directly on NASCAR moving forward. Every retaliation call from here on out is going to be analyzed under a microscope, especially if radio chatter becomes part of the evidence again. At the end of the day, Kurt Busch may have accidentally exposed one of the most uncomfortable truths in modern NASCAR. Sometimes surviving controversy has less to do with what happened and more to do with what gets said afterward. So now the question is simple. Did Kyle Busch outsmart the system, or did NASCAR completely miss this call? And if drivers now believe silence is the best defense, what does that mean for the future of officiating in NASCAR? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more high-stakes NASCAR analysis like this, subscribe to SportsWire USA.